3, 2, 1. It's go time.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream?
What's up, everybody?
The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your
Lane Graves, how are you, buddy? Bobby Murray, how are you, Bobby? Good to see everybody. Bob Donahue, Michael Bradley, how are you, Michael? Good to see everybody. Joseph Cascarino, how are you, Joseph? David Schottlemeyer, what's up, David? This thing all messed up here.
Where's the CH?
David Stottlemeyer. You know how it is.
Going crazy from just the thought of you.
Mike Hayer, what's up, man? Ed Ranowski, how are you, Ed? Warren Cottrell. Jeff Santangelo, how are you, Jeff? Ronald, how are you? Good to see you, buddy. Man, oh, man, we got a great crowd tonight. Danny Poust is here. Ray Cruz, Grimy Fishing, what's up, man? Good to see everybody back. Randall Miller. Conway Hayden, how are you, Conway? Robert Standiford, how are you, Robert?
Pretty good.
Good to see everybody, man. Bob Austin's here. Andre Alvarez, I just texting you, Andre. I got you your lure you wanted. I'll get it out to you, pal. No problem. Michael Bradley, Jim Sabin. Jim, how are you, man? I think we just sent you a bunch of stuff, didn't we, Jim? Man, all right. Thank you for stopping in, buddy. Mark's here. John Warwick. Johnny, how are you, buddy? Good to see you, pal. Mike Barr, how are you, Mike? Man, we got a great show for you guys tonight. Man, guess what? Nick Wink is back in the house.
Cameraman Nick, baby.
Cameraman Nick is in the house. Hold on, Nick. See, I don't have you set up because you're never here.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, dude, did you really just go there?
It's getting deep.
I didn't have him set up.
You missed like 3 weeks, and Nick who?
Yeah, I know. I'm old news, but that's okay. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah,
as always.
You were busy, buddy, and you were telling us what you were doing, so that was a lot of work for you, and we understand.
Yeah,
and all of our listeners understand.
Yeah, but I watched your video and you did a good job. I mean, I seen some fingers in the camera and stuff, and I knew that's Mike.
Well, I tell you, my camera technique isn't the greatest, but George and I got along, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're ham and eggers. So from way back in the day, I mean, we're not finished carpenters, okay? We're framing guys.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
We're not, we leave the finished carpentry to GDP. We're going to get the walls up.
Yep.
So I'm glad you brought that up, though, George, because you guys went over the schedule last week, and pretty cool.
Want me to pull that back up again?
I do, because which event next year, because I'm feeling something happening, which event is going to be the event where GDP holds up that blue trophy?
And you're assuming it's only going to be one?
Well, the first one.
Okay. So let me break this down for you from a Greg DePalma standpoint of view. Not from the rest of them guys, because it ain't easy. Right?
Right.
The first one they say is like the hardest, and then the hits keep hitting. So I think we're going multiple wins next year. 2.
Hey,
Oh, excuse me, but I've seen it happen this year. Did we not have a 2-time winner this year, or was that last year?
I don't think we had a 2-time winner this year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Well, let me explain something to you. how this is going to go down. The very first tournament, right out of the gate, St. John's River, he's not going to win that. But he's going to have a high finish. It's going to set the tone. It's going to establish momentum. Okeechobee, that depends on the water level, the wind. That can be a real like I almost wish they didn't have tournaments in Okeechobee. Elite. Because that can be like, you got this massive, gargantuan 10 miles across in diameter lake, and everybody ends up in 2 spots.
Well, that's the way it's been fishing lately.
Well, that's because
yeah, but so you don't know. That could be the water could go back down and it could open up the whole thing. But
we have a situation on Light 1. Light 1 has a situation.
Yeah, that's that thing, Nick.
So getting back to the task at hand, the 2 wins I have for GDP this year are at the Packatank River, Albemarle Sound, and Sabine. So that's where I'm at with that.
He's
tidal water.
He's a river guy.
Yeah,
he likes that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there's some things about the Sabine that we can't go into that are classified. That's going to be revisited this year. Okay, so I do have insider information, which I don't mind having, and that's how I see it, Nick. To answer your question, I will put him in for a strong showing at the final at Mississippi River Lacrosse, but not a win.
Yeah. Well, for all you new listeners, my name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord. Behind the camera is cameraman Nick, and we are Tackle Shop Live. We come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock, and we talk tackle, we talk tips, and we talk tournaments and
other things.
Who knows where it's going to go every
life
night.
Lessons.
We have a very broad strokes over here in the
eclectic.
Yeah, in the department of our outline. Our outline's very, very, very broad. So it's loose, very loose. Yeah. But good to see everybody here. Paul Batters, good to see you here again, buddy. Yeah, long time no see. Kenny Hodgins in the house. Jack Hinkle, how are you, pal? Raymond Barton, what's up, buddy? But so we're gonna get this show going, Nick. Right away, we're gonna jump on this, and this is a great section. This is a great part of our show that we love doing because we are a tackle shop and we love talking tackle. What's up, Tom Heckman?
Nick, I think you should just pan the workbench because there is some stuff going on here. Now, this is multiple segments laid out, but I'm talking about check it out.
It's a lot of stuff to talk about right there.
It is a lot of stuff to talk about.
A lot of stuff to talk about there.
And I've got some predominant brands being featured. It happens that way sometimes.
It does.
It happens that way sometimes.
Well, it's been a fun week here at the shop. We've been checking in a bunch of new products, new to us products, new products to the 25 tackle year, and big loads of stuff coming in every single day. So it's been a good time.
Yeah.
With playing with tackle, which we love to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if the word play is appropriate, when you're processing tonnage.
Well,
lights are down again, by the way.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Please.
It's a tape thing. Oh. This is our high budget lighting system.
This studio is held together with duct tape and God knows what. I mean, look at this. I don't know. Anyways, we roll with the punches, and that's how it goes. Sometimes you're 50 miles from the ramp and you sling an ear on your prop, and your spare prop ain't much better.
Are you speaking from experience?
I mean, every once in a while you got to send it to get somewhere, and collateral damage occurs. That's why we're good friends with Propeller Dynamics. Anyways, getting back on point, on topic. We are going to talk about a little tackle talk. We're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to go with something that we missed. Not very often do we miss, but boy, did we miss. And, you know, you got to go back to like put yourself in a position where you're like a year and a half away from a new season, and you are establishing your product mix for your new products. So, you know, we have multiple, you know, companies, many hundreds of companies, and a lot of them we're going to mix some new product in every year. And some of that stuff takes place well in advance of even when you can see a sample. You might not even see a sample. And that's what happened here. And I take full responsibility for the absolute freaking beatdown that occurred with the Swamp Lord. And I'm not making excuses, but let's just say
you screwed up.
Yeah.
You screwed up, George.
I mean, this deck was stacked against me.
I mean,
I read read the tea leaves wrong.
That's really what it was. It was like, you know, you don't think of Berkeley, you know, and frogs, you know what I mean? It wasn't like it's just, you know, they've done some stuff in the past that was really gimmicky kind of thing, and we were like, well, this is just going to be the same thing. And we screwed that up.
So the Swamp Lord, I'm sure everybody on the show knows more about it than me, but the Swamp Lord was designed by Bobby Lane, and obviously it catches some fish. We saw Jordan Lee win 100,000+ on it.
Yeah.
At the heavy hitters tournament.
Yeah.
So cameraman Nick, we got the Swamp Lord Walker. Okay. That's your Walker. And the Poppin' Swamp Lord, the Swamp Lord Popper, which obviously walks really well also. So they both walk really well, but you got different profiles, right? And, you know, they collapse real easy, which we like in a frog. They got this badass hook in them.
Freakish hook.
You know, fusion, you know, and I'll let you in on a little secret. They're made by a company called BKK, which makes a mean hook. Bodies are, I hesitate to use the word sealed, but they're pretty freaking tight.
I think they actually use that word.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But, you know, when I looked at it, I didn't say it was a sealed body.
Well, somebody down in their basement
it's
eating
pretty
a Hot Pocket's going to do some testing.
Well, I could just say this. It will help you out a lot with the water gather.
Yeah, you don't get as much water in there, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, the Walker, obviously, you know, has that very traditional shape. A little bit bigger, okay? I did want to bring my scale out.
It's not longer, though. It's definitely wider, but it's not. I don't think it's any longer.
No, it's just the overall profile's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
George, that color you got, man, that's sexy right there.
So this is they do have some kick-ass colors. This is Potomac.
Perfect for that.
Heck yeah.
Can I say something about that frog, George?
The color or the frog?
The frog, the whole frog line itself, the body on it, the material is weird. And when you touch it, it's a weird, it has a different feel to it. It's real. You know, when George said about collapse, there's something going on here at the top of this frog up in this top area that it'll collapse. I think a lot easier than I see in a lot of other frogs. And you can see it just little touch, and it starts exposing those hooks right away. It's got some kind of like a little divot up top here that makes it feel differently. It's must be different because in the package, when you're at the when you're looking at them in retail environment, they expose this so you can touch it and push on it, because this is something this is one of the special things about this frog.
Were you touching the frogs, Mike?
I was going through there and touching the frogs. It's something about that material that makes it collapse, and you get, I don't know if you get better hookups or what, but you have to. You would have to get better hookups with it.
Until we get hooked up with it, we're not going to go there. But I do want to give you a weight. So we have the
what's it say on the package? Doesn't say.
I don't think it does, but we don't need the package.
Yeah, you got the drug scale there.
We have the drug dealer scale. So we got the regular Swamp Lord, which is coming in at 0.63. Okay. So 0.75 is 3/4. So we're talking what? Half plus a 16th, 7/16. So figure somewhere in that neighborhood. Good weight for a good long distance cast. I don't know if you realize this, if you guys who watch the tournaments and study this stuff real close. When Jordan Lee was fishing the heavy hitters, he was on a heavy duty cheese mat on top of hydrilla. Now that's about as thick and gnarly as it gets. And he was fishing basically a heavy powered flipping stick. Long 7/8 heavy, big mega casts. He said the very most critical thing about his tournament was not going into the mat to chase the fish down because it would ruin getting all kinds of bites, right? So he was bombing it. John Cox, who was in this backwater, I'm sure you guys who watched the Elite Series on Wheeler, first of all, it was blazing hot out, right? It was like walking on the surface of the sun. He's back in the back of this creek, and he said he was back in there in practice, and a whole pile of fish come off the lake and push these big shad up into that pocket. And it was just like right place, right time, right decision to stay.
Annihilation.
And he also went on to say that he would go for an hour and a half between bites sometimes as the days progressed. He finished third at Wheeler. But he went up to a swim bait rod. He went up to a 7, let's see if I have it in my notes. 7.9 swim bait rod. Heavy. Because he was casting. He said he casted so far the first day of the tournament that he was thrown into his backing. So he had to strip his reel down, pull more backing off, and reload.
Restring.
And he said he was casting so far on the third, I think, day of the tournament that he couldn't see where the frog was landing. So, if you get a chance to go back onto Bassmaster, watch the interview with Cox and the Straight Casts guys in the boat. And it's educational and entertaining. So we had Jordan Lee win 100,000 plus in Florida on the frog. Now what he did was, okay, you see this frog? That's how much tail he left on it. He cut those tails almost completely off that frog. And if you understand Jordan Lee, he's from Alabama. He cut his teeth on Gunnersville. And when they frog the cheese mats in Gunnersville, they cut those legs down like that. They might even shove a little weight in the frog. They want that frog to sit down in the mat, the cheese, which is the algae on top of the mat, and make a trail. And they fish it slow. So what I think is important for us to take away is when you're on those gnarly cheese mats, whether it's on milfoil or hydrilla, it doesn't matter. And you find that there's small areas in those big mats that hold all the fish, and you'll hear that presence of bait fish. Usually you'll hear them. You won't see them because it's a mat. That's when you want to modify your frog in such a manner. Now, John Cox, he's a little different. The way he fishes them, he takes them out of the package and ties them on and just fishes them. And he's smiling the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just great. He's just having a ball.
Larry Schaefer says 6.25 is 5/8 of an ounce.
Fantastic.
And Mike Barr, they are in stock, believe it or not. Things here, it's in stock.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, also in that heavy hitters, we had third place, I think. Let me check my notes here. Third place, Brandon Coulter. Fifth.
John Cox was third.
No, I'm talking about the heavy hitters.
Oh, heavy hitters.
Brandon Coulter, fifth. And we're big Brandon Coulter fans. Back in the day, his dad was the Northeast champion boat rep for the Northeast, and they lived here. And his dad, what a problem he was. If you fished a tournament in the fall, you might as well just make your check out to his dad. I'm not lying. And I'll tell you how he caught these fish. This was on the Chesapeake Bay, and I'll tell you how he caught these fish. Something we're going to talk about later tonight on a crankbait. And he always, you might think after years of doing it that you were going to have your shot in the late fall, big November tournament. No, wasn't going down like that. So we've always been big Brandon Coulter fans because we knew his dad.
Yeah.
And I mean, Brandon's a great guy. You know, back before he became the big touring pro he was, traveled to a few tournaments with him. Great guy. Yeah. So, anyways, sidebar. Now the popping frog. Okay, a little smaller profile. 0.55. So a little over a half ounce. So you're really cranking these things. Great cast, great frog. I think we said everything we needed. Oh, $9.99. So yeah. Let me see. Yeah, awesome colors. Potomac. Obviously, we got all of our different blacks. This one here is this one's green pumpkin. Look at that green pumpkin.
It's almost black.
It is, but
dark green pumpkin.
You can
you can kind of see it. Yeah.
Now, when you're on them cheese mats, it doesn't frickin' matter. Black is my favorite for that. We got, you got your lighter colors. You got your honey shad. It's great to have a frog with a white belly. Tom Heckman, you're right, Tom Heckman. And what did he do every year, Tom Heckman, in October and November, particularly November? Yeah, you don't have to answer. We know.
Well, I think the big thing with this frog is I mean, it is just another frog, but it's not really just another frog. It has some really cool components to it. It has some really cool colors. It definitely sets itself apart a little bit from the Spros and all the other frogs that are out there. It's a tough market, but this is a little different frog. So
yeah.
Hey guys, real quick question for those that don't throw frogs much, but they're interested in that frog. The popping frog, standard frog, when are you throwing each?
That's a good question. So the way I do it, Nick, and it works pretty well for me, is I lean towards the popping frog as a general rule of thumb, because if I'm on open water with emerging grass and it's a little windy, I can pop it. But it also walks really well. You can fish a popping frog like a walking frog. What's nice about the walking frog is it excels in heavy grass. The popping frog mouth grabs a lot of that grass, and you're constantly fighting that. So the walking frog really shines in your heavy, thick grass. You're matted, you're thick, you're cheese. Leave that popping frog be. because what happens is that mouth grabs that grass and tilts the frog up like this. Whereas the walking frog, it doesn't really walk in the mat. It just goes in a straight line, but it goes in a straight line.
It doesn't gather all the stuff up.
You know, I don't know if you realized it or not, or caught up on it, or clued into it, but when Jordan Lee won that tournament, you know, he was putting some serious pressure on his area, and so was everybody else. Matter of fact, there was some discussions being held on the water, and I don't think they were making dinner plans.
No, they got into
about
it.
The area.
They got into it a little bit.
And what I found really interesting, and also what I found really interesting was that he shared, was he took a jig rattle. Now, we should probably, why don't you go over there and grab a loose jig rattle out of that box? I'm going to show you what a jig rattle is, but he took these jig rattles, okay? And you can do this to any frog you want, but he did it to these. And he ripped this legs out of here. Now, these go all the way through. This is one big continuous piece, okay? This is not like one group and one group. This is one big loop. So he ripped those out. Yeah. And glued these in. Now, let me flip this around, Nick. These are made to put in rattle bands on skirts. And you'll notice that little indent right there. That kind of bites in there. You kind of force that in and you go into the body, and then it kind of grabs that. And then you want to take and put some glue around that. Some thicker, that rattle and me aren't getting along. Some thicker, thank you. Some thicker, like gel type super glue. And now you have no skirt at all. You have two rattles. So when you're on that mat and you're working that frog and you slow, stop. Now, why are we talking so much about that is because this is prime cheese mat season. Right now, this is primo frog and cheese mat season. It's something you don't want to miss. You want to take advantage of. Get your frog rods out. Get your flipping sticks out. Forget your frog rod. Get your flipping stick out, and get your 65 braid on there, 50-pound braid on there, and get in on some of this fun. You know? So that, yeah, I wanted to bring that rattle. It was really cool that he shared that. I never tried that before. I would always put a glass rattle inside the frog.
Yeah, he has a nice video on his YouTube page on that. Putting that in.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, boys. Where do we want to go? I think we're going to go big. I think we're going to go real big. I think we're going to go.
I like big.
We're going to go into the exotic section here. Think Lamborghini. Think McLaren. Think Bugatti Veyron. You know, think Palm Beach, Florida. Cruising with your McLaren. You know. Well, I got it right here. The new Poison Adrenas
in the
are
house.
in the house. And you know we like us some Poison Adrenas. These are some of the more exotic, super light, super strong, super sensitive. Look at that. We got our models right on the handle. Sorry, it's upside down. So when you're looking down in your rod locker, you can see your model number. So we got the Poison Adrena. Look at that Jackal collaboration. Look at that. We got the Poison Adrena, the new B model, Of course, we had to put the metanium on it, right?
Of course.
Hell yeah. Light rod, light reel. So we're talking Spiral X technology, which we've talked about infinitely, but this is Spiral X at the core. So the infinity tape, the crisscross wrap, the continuous tip to butt, cross it, butt to tip, wrap is done first. Well, it's actually done early in the layup stage. And then the high power X carbon. I'm talking some serious like Torre, Primo
Light, sensitive,
carbon.
powerful.
These things are ridiculously light. Now, this model here, I picked a few models. Not going to break all the models down because we wouldn't even talk about anything. This would be the Poison Adrena show. There's a bunch of models. And we got every single one in stock except for one. It's probably the one you want, Nick. So this model is a, can't even read that, 610 medium. And I grabbed this model because, grab that rod tip, Nick. Let's put a flex on that. It's not extra fast. It's a true fast. This model's so versatile. This is a jerkbait rod extraordinaire. You can walk your dog with this thing. You can throw your pop-R with this thing. You can finesse fish with this thing. This is a awesome rod. We got Fuji SIC rings in these sweet-looking little chrome lightweight frames. Double foot, double foot, double foot. Then we go to single foot. This 610 rod has 9 guides and a tip on it. We have a full monocoque handle. So this carbon handle is, this blank goes all the ways through here. This carbon handle comes all the ways up, marries up with a CI4 reel seat. I mean, the feel, the sensitivity, incredible. Okay. 610. Medium. So keep in mind with this type of carbon, they tend to be a little tiny bit stiffer than what other rods would be.
Exactly.
But not far off.
They're
not far off.
Not a lot, but there are definitely.
I wouldn't even call them off.
No, they're just the tips. You'll notice definitely the tips are a little bit stiffer.
Here's a unique rod that I really like. Wrong one. Here's the rod I was thinking about. So this is a 7.2 medium heavy glass. So this is carbon, high power X, spiral X, and glass. So now we have, grab that tip, Nick. Now we have a more forgiving. This is a medium heavy. They also make this in a medium. So, I mean, we could do a lot with this rod with moving baits. We can throw a lot of our crankbaits. We could open water fish a chatterbait. Medium-sized spinnerbaits. And many other things. That's a moving bait rod. Another one I wanted to highlight for you guys. This is the 7.4 HLMB, and that stands for large moving bait. So this is going to be your mid-size swim bait rod, but it's short enough for those accurate target casts. And other moving baits. I mean, you get in a grass bed, throw your chatterbait on here. Throw your buzzbait on here when you're getting around big fish and cover. But also, it's got that taper. You know, you could throw a, what's this thing rated for? Well, it's upside down now.
Here, let me read it for you because you don't have your glasses on.
It's because I don't have any glasses.
Half to 2.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So, you can throw for those target casts with your medium-sized glides, which for most of us, 2 ounces covers most of what we throw. When you're trying to get up around boat docks and lay downs and tight quarters, this is such a specialty rod for that.
Be good for like pitching a big heavy jig too, or a Texas rig, because it goes all the way to 2 ounces. So you have a lot of that 3/4, 1 ounce pitching.
And then this is probably one of the most unique and accurate 7-foot medium spinning rods, but it's so freaking light.
That rod's spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
And last but not least, I'm not sure how many models there are. I'm going to say there's probably about, off the top of my head, I'm going to say there's probably about 20 couple. So here is a very unique spinning rod. Comes in medium, light, and medium. 610, medium light, 610 medium, extremely light. I put the Vanford on it. Matches up really well. Extremely light. But if you like shaking a minnow, we got your solid tip. We got your minnow shaking tip right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Beautiful.
Also be great for your finesse baits like your Ned rigs, your drop shots. Beautiful. So that's your Poison Adrena B. No price change. New rod. New blank. New monocoque handle. CI4 reel seat. Fuji SIC guides. A bunch of new models. Starting at about $379. They go up to about $409. Beautiful. Freaking beautiful rods. We're so excited when they came in today. So come on in. Put one in your hand. But be forewarned.
That's the thing. You hold these rods and they're just like incredible.
You will be taking one home with you.
They are a totally different feel than what the old ones were.
You know what's impressive though, and I think we found this out at ICAST. Like you said, the price didn't change.
Yeah,
Price did not
That's
change.
pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, it tweaks to the old rod, a lot of tweaks to the old rod, and a lot of new actions, a lot of new rods. That you can. They expanded the line immensely, and we had a lot of experience with the old Poison Adrenas. We loved them to death. So this thing, man, it's going to be off the charts.
I already made my list up too of the ones I'm going to be getting.
Hope it's not 20 rods.
It's not. It's close, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was fun. Really like breaking down new rods with you guys. Got a couple on tap for next week also. Got some very, very specific models. Really like exotic stuff we're going to go over next week. Can't wait to do that with you. But this is this week.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the middle of this bad boy, and we're going to talk about some baits because everybody loves baits, right?
I love baits.
So, every company has a finesse worm. You got the Zoom finesse worm, the Zoom trick worm. I mean, we talked about the big bite baits worm the other week and the matte finishes. Missile. I mean, just everybody. Robo worm.
Robo.
I mean, everybody. Every brand in here has a beautiful finesse worm. Well, Berkeley is obviously no different. And you got the power bait. Okay, so you have the scent.
Yeah. I don't think people, they kind of forget about the power bait scent. They just kind of think Berkeley power bait. No, I mean, that scent is legit. Unbelievably legit.
That scent caught a lot of fish over the years.
Oh, I'm telling you, it made a difference for so many people over the years.
So we have the bottom hopper Okay. Nothing too radical about the design. It's been around for a long time. Okay. This is their finesse worm. This is their trick worm, if you want to call it that. But we have 4 new colors, and I'll tell you what, they've got their color game down. I mean, it's dialed.
Oh, yeah.
Green pumpkin magic. Die old. I wonder if we should have some more light on that.
You can see it pretty good.
You see it pretty good, Nick?
Yeah, they get the gist of it.
Blue crawl.
That one you can see real good too. The flash on the bottom. It's like your green pumpkin flash. A little bit of flash on there. Beautiful. That thing's sweet.
Green pumpkin blue fleck.
Everybody loves a green pumpkin blue fleck. For you tidal water guys, there you go.
Can't really see that one that good.
It's there. Pretty good. Yeah, you see it.
And of course, you got to have Morning Dawn red fleck.
Whoever thought that color would be that good?
Aaron Martins.
Yeah, that was like
I answered your question.
It's like the first time you'd throw a bubblegum something in the water. It's like, what the hell?
So Nick, we got 4 3/4 and 6. We got $4.99 a pack. We're getting 15 of the smaller and 12 of the bigger.
That's a heck of a deal.
That is a heck of a deal.
And you're getting a scent cooked into it. The power bait, famous power bait scent. And if you guys don't think that makes a difference, sash John Cox. He loves him some power bait.
And Gulp. And Max Scent.
Yeah, all that stuff. All the scented plastics from Berkeley.
Max Scent is actually Gulp in a plastic.
Yeah, it
doesn't dry out.
It doesn't dry out, right? Exactly.
Also from Berkeley, and I'm going to tell you what, this bait right here does not get the love that it deserves. This is the jerk shad. Very hard to show you. So basically we have a power bait super fluke. It's a 5-inch bait. It's heavy. It's heavier than a fluke.
Should I go get a fluke?
Yeah. We're going to do some scientific testing here. So the power bait jerk shad, as it's called, 5-inch bait, is 0.31. Okay? Let's try another one. See how consistent they are. Yep, 0.31. So we got 0.31. 0.31 is 5/16. That's 5/16. Zoom Super Fluke, which is the standard, 0.28.
Wow.
I go by feel, Mike. I don't know the scale.
It's totally different.
Okay. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if in the water, you notice it.
That's a lot in the water.
So we got a little bit different fall rate, but we have some new colors. So we have, there's a whole bunch of colors. This bait does not get the love it deserves.
It really doesn't.
There's a bunch of colors. We carry a bunch, but there's 3 new ones. So we have secret purple. And these colors are a little random in a pack. You might get a little more purple on one. There's a white belly, not pearl, white. Purple and white. Beautiful. The purple's really muted out. There's some silver fleck in there. We have Tennessee shad. You got that flash of that silver metal flake on the belly, and then that coppery, almost roadkill back.
I was just going to say roadkill on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got you on that one.
Yeah. I was going to go there.
And then we have the olive back. Okay. Same kind of a metal flake belly, but a little more of it.
Yeah. More up the sides more.
And then, of course, an olive back.
It's almost like a Arkansas Shiner, sort of. Not really.
That's somewhat of an aggressive description.
Yeah.
Strike that from the records.
Kind of went a little off rail there.
Strike that from the record. So give a try. If you're a big fluke fisherman, a big twitcher, Carolina rig 'em. 5-inch, $4.99 for a 10 count. Great colors. Power bait scent. We're in prime fluke season. We're in prime donkey rig season. Now's when you start fishing your donkey rig.
Yeah.
You know, when you're
Just donkey
catching
rig.
one and there's 3 or 4 fighting, that's when you're catching doubles.
Yep.
So it's time to donkey rig.
Yep.
The fluke bite is on.
You know, I just can't get over the price of those things.
$4.99.
I mean, that's great. Great
for
price.
10 baits.
Yeah, scented plastic, nice quality plastic. Legendary, been around forever, and they keep the price right on it, man. It's just really, really good. Really good deal.
I'm glad you're happy with that.
I am. I just like good values, good quality plastic, good value, something that catches fish, something that's been around, proven. I like it.
Wonderful. Last but not least,
I love his reaction, man. Wonderful, man. That's just wonderful.
we're going to our friends at Missile with a hover strolling. Yeah. Hover strolling technique. Somewhat familiar. It's called the Hover Missile. Gamakatsu light wire hook. That is a bad boy right there. Look at that thing. I mean, just
awesome.
Like surgical.
I like the way he's doing his heads, Nick. They look like bombs.
Check this out, Nick. I'm going to highlight something for you. In each pack is 2 toothpicks. Okay. There is in the head, there is a hole molded that you will put the toothpick into after you rig your bait.
Put it the other way, yeah.
After you rig your bait. So let's see. Can you grab me a bait from the table over there, Mike? I'll show you how to rig this. But what's cool is, and you can also use monofilament. You can find a mono or a fluoro that fits in that hole and shove that in and trim it. Yeah, I don't really want any Z-Man stuff. That's really hard to put in a core tackle head. Yeah, we weren't prepped up for you guys on this one. Okay, so this is obviously a bigger hook than we would use here, but so we're going to put this head inside this bait. We have the option of doing it back in here, but on their head, what I like about the Missile head, it's you don't have to try to come in on the top and then then stretch the bait and back it in. I'm going to use this. So this is just going to be like rigging a jig head, right? So kind of get an idea where you want your jig head to come out. I got one here. It's all tore up. Push your bait up in there. take your toothpick. Through your hole there like that. Push it out through there. And then you're going to need your nippers to cut it off, or your scissors. And then that's going to help hold that bait on there. Sorry for this bait. It's been rigged numerous times, but now you have weight spread over the whole length of the bait. So instead of a nose dive, you're going to get more of a horizontal dive that's going to make it want to wobble. And then you can shake it and keep it at that level. So it's the hover missile, jig head. Very cool idea with the toothpick, or like I said, you could take a thick line and push it through there.
And George, I'm glad that you brought up, that fall a little bit different, not nose down, but horizontal, because what we were finding out last year with all these pros throwing these hover rigs or whatever you want to call them, it was all about that little shake.
Yeah.
It's all about that little quiver, whatever you want to call it. But yeah,
and it had to be level.
That's
to
right.
Get the best shake out of it, the best roll out of it.
And we learned it many, many years ago with a fluke. And we saw a guy demonstrate this. Now, he had more of a solid body. This bait wouldn't be the one. But he said, check this out. And he took a pretty thick finishing nail, and he had his fluke rigged up weightless, and he shoved this nail into his fluke, and he threw it in a swimming pool. And instead of it falling like this, it wanted to fall horizontal, and it swam its way down flat. Plus you had weight. And it was just triggering a light bulb. Well, that's what they're doing with these heads. By putting the head inside the bait, you're taking all this lead that would be here, causing a nose down fall. You're distributing it through the bait, causing a more of a horizontal fall, which is slower. It shimmies, and it allows you to fish suspended fish more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that toothpick or line trick really helps hold that bait in place.
You really gotta love those guys at Missile. They're always coming up with some good stuff.
They do.
They do good work.
They do good work. They got a great team, though. They got a great pro staff.
I think they got tipped off on that one, though. They got a tip off on that one.
Yeah, but then they make it their own.
They did.
They do make it their own, and I all their stuff. They kind of think it through, and they got a great staff. I mean, John Cruz. I mean, he's
so what
he's
you
been
have
in the game a long time.
The deal with this jig head that I think makes it,
It's a Gamakatsu hook.
or two things. So you don't have to come in. You don't have to start your head in here. Okay. If you have lead out in the front, you have to end up like that. So you have to start your head in here, and then you have to kind of stretch and guide, which is fine. But this way, you're just coming straight in like a jig head that we're comfortable with, right? And then we're carefully inserting that head in that bait like that. Now we have our weight distributed for a more horizontal fall. And we can take our toothpick and we can go through our bait like such. Once you figure that out, like that, and lock her in. Snip, snip, we're locked in. So,
Pretty
anyways,
cool.
It's a good little jig head. It's an option in the hover strolling arena. We have a lot of options in that arena. And we want to highlight. That's a $5.99 for a 3-pack. Really like that Gamakatsu hook, man.
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
Love it.
That light wire, fine wire.
What's up, Frank Garvey? And hi to everybody who's stopping in. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're talking tackle right now. And went over some great stuff. What else you got, George? Anything else? Does that cover it?
Well, for the most part, yeah. For the most part, that covers it. You know, I kind of figured that might be getting a little long-winded. Didn't really want to go much.
Yeah.
Didn't really. Oh, you know what?
People love it. People love it.
Bonus round.
Yeah. Got it.
It'd be nice if we had some bonus round music. I mean, is it too much to ask for?
Bonus round music.
Did you ever hear of being a producer? That's not bonus round music.
Bonus round.
Bonus round's like, come on, get it.
I like me a little.
By the way, this is an original recording. We actually, Mike and I know the guy that recorded this. He might not know we're using it on this show.
Hey, you know what? This bonus round that's coming is pretty badass.
It's a bonus round.
Dude, listen to that guitar.
That's badass too.
Huh?
Oh yeah, baby.
What up with that? Totally unique.
Can Mike play
Oh, I can play.
air guitar?
Second best air guitarist I've ever seen.
I saw George do it in front of like 300 people on a stage.
I felt the call. I felt the call.
I promptly left.
George, are you playing bass or are you going electric?
I went banjo that night.
Oh,
My
nice.
buddy's bluegrass band was up on the stage, and I answered the call.
It was awesome.
It was.
All right, what do you got? What do you got, man?
all right.
All that, and you're slacking off here. You're lagging.
I was enjoying that intro music.
What? This is what I'm excited about. What?
The white butterfly.
White butterfly.
Mhm. Rarer than a monarch. Seen less often than a yellow swallowtail. Hey, look at this. Now, if you have this hand in poker, right there's 4 cards that'll beat a full house any day of the week. That's the whole set of 110s.
Man, oh
Junior.
man.
Junior plus 1. 110. 110 plus 1.
Wow. Wow, folks.
I mean, this color right here is badass. Okay? Check this out.
Megabass was more excited about this one than I think than anyone so far. They were like going off about this color. Little Griffin.
Baby Griffin 0. How about a BFS wake crankbait? Are you freaking kidding me? A BFS wake bait. What up with that?
Yep. Greg Plick knows all about that. He was in, bought 4 of them.
How about the Karashi?
Oh, Lord.
One of the hottest secret baits ever. White butterfly. Of course, you got to have your Pop X. And you got to have your Pop Max.
Beautiful.
But, in my opinion, one of the greatest walking baits of all time is the Giant Dog X.
Got an eye on that thing, Nick. Zero in on that one, huh?
And you thought I wasn't going to bring this up.
You almost didn't.
Get a hold of yourself,
You were
son.
going somewhere. You were going somewhere.
It's called, just illusion. I'm telling you. What do you think of that? White butterfly.
I love it.
That's hot. Now, unfortunately, we don't put these on the website because they don't last very long. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we'll be here.
Call us up.
Bells on. Call us up. We'll pack them up. We'll ship them out. Or stop by.
Yeah.
And we can have a post-Tackle Shop Live discussion right here at the counter. And, yeah.
We do that all the time.
We do.
We do that all the time.
We do.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah. So there you have it, people.
Well, there's your tackle talk.
Tackle talk.
Tackle talk for tonight. And it was a great tackle talk.
September 19th.
September 19th.
2024.
Great stuff. Everything we talk about on Tackle Talk is available online and in the shop here, ready to roll. And of course, if you have any questions on any of the products, you can call us here at the shop and we'll answer them for you. But now we're going to move and slide right into a little tournament talk. Man, we've been listening to.
That's the kind of producer work we like to see.
I've been listening. I haven't really been watching, but I've been listening to this buddy tournament going on here the last couple days, and George laughing, and George's like, "What the hell's going on?" And I guess people getting hour delays and all kinds of crazy stuff. Really cool. It was funny. It was funny the whole way through it. What's going on with the tournament talk, George?
Well, I wasn't really going to break that tournament down, but basically that's a team circuit, and it's on the Fox Chain of Lakes in Wisconsin, which is all kinds of cool lakes. Each one of them slightly different, but yet somewhat the same. We're going to talk about that next week. This week, we're going to talk about the Bass Open that was on the Mississippi River. The Bass Opens are some of your purest forms of tournament fishing. I mean, you have the broad range of, you got the local sticks that sign up for the one tournament in their town. You got the guys that fish trying to qualify for the elites, the EQ anglers. They're fishing all 9.
Yeah.
You got the hardcore tournament guys that can't get enough, that are just, if they qualified, they probably wouldn't go to the elites because they're not interested in that. They're fishing them all. So it's a really interesting cross-section of anglers. And in my way of thinking, it's must-see TV because we're talking hardcore, extremely talented anglers, and we're picking up tips. Now, this one was on the Mississippi River out of La Crosse. I mean, that stuff speaks to me. I'm a shallow water, grass, rock, wood, you name it, angler.
Seems like they caught a lot of fish.
They always do. That place is a fish factory.
Yeah, seems like there was a lot of action.
Yeah, I mean, when the elites were there last year, they caught the fire out of them, and the lake was low. I mean, the river was low. This year, they got a little water, so the river's up. The fishing's even better yet. But, it was typical shallow river stuff. So if you fish a river, you're probably fishing shallow. If you fish a tidal river, you're probably fishing shallow. Not a big, deep water, offshore, not a big electronics fishing deal. You can pretty much get down and dirty, jack the trolling motor up as high as it'll go. They
were going like back in the coves and the sloughs, and they were fishing.
Yeah.
They were fishing gravel bars. They were fishing all kinds of
sandbars.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Wing dams, main river, backwaters,
current
creeks.
breaks, little current breaks and stuff. I saw that one guy was fishing top water, on a really cool point. Came out, current kind of came around there a little bit, and it made a little perfect little seam, and he was catching them off on top waters right there.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Really like that fishery. It's bucket list for me. I will definitely be going to La Crosse for a week at some point just to check that scene out. I don't know when, but it's going to be soon. Anyways, if you looked at the anglers and you watched it, you kind of read about it, and you watched, you followed up with it. It's September up north, cold front. The switch got flipped that we have to feed, and it's A to Z, shallow water 101. I mean, guys flipping jigs, guys swimming jigs. It's a lot of grass on that river, but there's also pure hardcover like wing dams on the main river. Obviously your chatterbait's going to play, and it did. We got to see top water walkers, top water poppers.
Yep.
We got to see
frogging. Lots of frogging.
Frogging heaven. Ish was frogging. He was in 4th or 5th place on day one. Cody Meyer, who's definitely going to qualify for the elites after a long MLF career, went out this year, signed up for all of them. He's fishing the EQs. He was swim baiting. He was swimming one of our new favorite swim baits, the Last Ace. This is our finesse type mag draft type bait, minus the magnet. Line thrill. We love it. They eat it. He was swimming that thing. So you had the whole range. But what I really liked is the main river wing dam guys. So you get on that main river wing dam, right? And you're not dealing with all that grass. You're not dealing with all that backwaters. We all know about September grass. Massive fields of milfoil, duckweed is floating all over it, and big giant mats of duckweed, coontail, eelgrass, massive,
thickest part of the year for
massive
grass.
Acreage. But all the fish are in small areas. And that's hard work that finds that. But the wing dam guys now, they go for miles. They fish. This tournament was open to 3 pools. They launch at 8. You can go down to 7, up to 7, down to 9. So what a wing dam is, for those of you who have not experienced those, you'll see them on the James River if you're on the East Coast here. They are underwater rock jetties. Well, if the river's low, they're not necessarily underwater.
Right.
And they direct current into the channel.
Keep the channel clean.
To keep the channel washed out. And
rock usually.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you can literally go from wing dam to wing dam to wing. I mean, you can literally just, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, and just fish them all.
Are they man-made?
They are. The Army Corps of Engineers has channelized. I mean, the Mississippi River is navigable from one end to the other. It's a major commerce. It's locks and dams. I mean, it's just lock after lock, dam after dam. And it's a major commerce. So you have current, you have all this man-made stuff, hardcover. Well, these fish get on that now.
Oh, yeah.
And they're fishing. That is a current break from them. On the upstream side is a push.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're fishing the seam. If it makes a seam, if it's out of the water a little bit, they'll fish the seam. They'll fish behind it.
Even if it's underwater, it'll make a seam.
Yeah, it'll make that seam. It'll make the backside of your current break fish. And then like on the tip is a really good spot too. They'll hang right on that super tip right there, some of the fish. And then the push, which I really like, the push on the front side where the current comes in and hits it, that's a whole nother fish too. So you got to fish all
typically
scenarios of it.
Typically these wing dams, the side the current's hitting, that's the push. And typically that whole wing dam's in play. If it comes off the bank 100 feet, 200 feet, typically that whole thing's in play. What a push is, we talk about this every once in a while. We have to describe this. So the current's flowing down the river. Here's my wing dam. Current flowing along, hits the wing dam, and is directed out and around to get into the channel and keep that current flow, keep that bottom clean. Well, when water stacks up against something, the hydraulics, it backs up. So here to here, there's no current. So those fish sit in front of that object, and that water's coming over their head, and it's going around them. And that's called the push. Now, there will be on a long wing dam like that, there will be a side current coming down the face of that wing dam.
Yeah.
And then when you get out to the end, that current's going to accelerate and go around that wing dam. It's also going to accelerate when it goes over it. When you squeeze the water down by making it shallower, it accelerates. So wing dams give you all kinds of current options, and current is good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I got to ask you guys, because I want to get in your brain a little bit, and I know everybody listening does too. So, George, I know when you fish a laydown, you have a way you pick it apart. What about these wing dams? You just talked about 3 different things. What are you hitting first? How are you playing that?
Well, me and Mike are going to have the same answer here. Number 1, big fish zone is the push. So the big fish gets the prime real estate, right?
And they'll be, those guys, if they were smart, they would figure out, when that current, because they build those wing dams on a little bit of an angle. So there's certain spots where you really get a good pocket, and then the current, starts to come and hit closer to the rocks and even get on the rocks at the very end of it out here. So there's a spot on that push that is the best spot, so you have to figure out where that's at on that particular one, and by reading the water, how it's rolling over, how the current's turning, and you usually get that little change of going over, and it's turning, and there's that little hot spot, and that's the big fish spot.
Prime.
That's your prime spot, and that's the one that we would key in on for the big fish. Now, you probably catch more fish on the out on the end on the downstream side of the break. You'll catch probably more fish, but it'll be a mixed bag more. But the 1 or 2 or 3 you catch on the front are going to be special ones.
So, if you want to just talk about, wing dams, you can liken them to, if you're a river fisherman, you can liken them to like water willow grass beds. You can liken them to bridge piers. You can liken them to rock ledges that run across a river. That's a really good likeness. You can liken them to a big boulder. You can liken them to a log, a big tree. It's all the same. But those fish, they're very patternable. It's really interesting how, depending on river level and the amount of flow, you can pretty much rely on historical patterns. Now, a river like the Mississippi, it's a lot like the Susquehanna. It's like big rivers that drain huge areas. There's a lot of influences there. So,
there's a
there
lot
could
to
be
it.
You can be on your fish, for example, in a multi-day tournament. You could have patterned these wing dams in practice, and you could have 10, 15, 20, 25 of them that you're running. And then the night before the tournament, what happens a lot in the late summer? Big bad thunderstorm.
Yeah.
And there's a big bad feeder creek or river that runs into your river. and a big gargantual fresh flow of red mud, guess what?
Yeah.
Fish will get used to that mud, but not the next morning. Maybe the day after that, maybe the day after that, but by then it's starting to clear up. So,
But you could go above it.
absolutely,
You can go above that mud coming in. So
you can go on that. It also can create a mud line.
a mud line, you can move out into the mud line.
That could occur with the ends of your wing dam or your other object. That sets up, that narrows your focus down.
Sometimes makes it better because it compresses the fish. It does takes them from that big long 100-foot structure down to a thing.
There's another concept at play here,
Mhm.
and that concept is something that if you're a runner and a gunner, you'll like, and that is, it's the same with boat docks. If you like fishing boat docks, and who doesn't? You know, on a boat dock, with or without current, is a lot like a wing dam or all these other objects we're talking about. Those fish will set up on a particular area. They might be up against a bank. They might be out on the end. They might be in the middle. But the cool thing about is, like the wing dam, these guys patterned where these fish were, and then they ran them.
Right.
And the nice thing about that is you can come into a stretch, and I'm going to ask you a question. If you have a stretch that's 100 yards or 200 yards long with 5 wing dams, and you're running up the river, what's your favorite way to approach those 5 wing dams? From the top or from the bottom?
I go from the top.
Yeah,
I go from the top down.
You're gonna work into the current, but you're gonna work your boat downriver.
Yeah, control your boat a lot better.
And
You know,
if the
not fighting it.
If the current's not as strong, you can even go bow down and still make your cast in the correct. You have to be aware of the current.
I've never fished up there, so I don't know how strong it is. And in my world, I know how strong the current is, and a lot of times we'll go up and then fish our way down, and plus you can fish that push a lot better.
Well, keep in mind that whenever you have current on an object that gets, it's 6 feet deep in front of it, and it has to go over it, and it's only a foot deep on top of it, you have an acceleration.
Yeah,
you're squeezing the water.
It is important to go into the current, fish into the current if you have a little heavier current sometimes, because you can control your bait a lot better. But there's, in most situations you can really fish down into it a lot better. In some situations,
you're still making your cast at the correct angle.
At the correct
angle. Your boat's just going in a direction that a lot of people aren't used to.
Yeah, I used to fish upriver a lot in a little heavier current all the time, because the fish were really nose into it and throwing above it and bringing it down. So that's what you want to make sure you still do.
The only time I fish upriver like that is if you and I are fishing together, and that way I get first crack at everything. And I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
But really.
No, that's definitely the way to do it.
One of the things that I found interesting about this tournament was Garrett Paquette, who we are big time Garrett the Grinder Paquette fans. I mean, this guy is a grinder. He is a phenomenal fisherman. He fishes. I mean, this dude fishes. He probably fishes every day of the year.
Well, he was an elite. He's trying to requalify.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I am well aware of that. And let me tell you something. Qualifying for the elites through the opens,
not easy.
Ain't no freaking joke, bro. Well, this guy, I mean, he's so close the other year too. I mean, he's just a fisherman. He is the joy of fishing. He is a grinder. He is a full-time fisherman for life.
Fun fact about Garrett Paquette. He was the first, I believe, somebody will probably fact check me and I'll be wrong, but he was the first century belt in the elites.
Yeah, you are wrong.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, by about 10 years.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very sure.
Paul Elias.
But did he actually get the belt? I think. I'm talking about
getting the belt.
Oh,
yeah. No.
yeah.
You may be right. You're probably right about that.
That's an interesting
You're
question.
probably right about that.
That's an interesting question because I know
Is it
that first year at Namastad, they were freaking hauling in some groceries, man.
I don't think they were giving out the belts back then.
Okay.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
Because I know Paul Elias, he needed Paul Elias, he went home and slept in bed for 3 weeks. I mean, they beat him to death. His hands were swelled up. He went through more.
That was one of the greatest crankbait tournaments.
Well, don't forget about the 12-inch jelly worm now.
12-inch jelly worm, but that was one of the greatest tournaments ever, man. With him and
how about Ish
and those guys catching those fish. I mean, they caught fish.
Ike had a belt there.
Oh, they killed it, man.
Yeah, and then they all bought houses there because it was so good.
Yeah, then a drought came and screwed everything all up.
She gone.
All the fish died and everything. I don't know what happened.
Well, you know what though? Our good friend Denny Brower still fishes there and lives there, amongst others.
Probably a summer home for him.
No, he lives there.
Winter home.
No,
can't see him
straight up living there.
Can't see him living there.
He's catching bass and shooting big frickin' sagebrush bucks and living his best
All right, we got to
life.
keep this show going here.
No, we don't. It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
We're getting drug out here.
We can do whatever we want.
Hey, we defined it in the beginning of the show that we're very loose.
We're loose.
So.
We're loose. Loose cannons.
Yes, please comment if we're upsetting you, but be warned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, let's get back on point. Mike, you make a good point.
Yeah.
Listen, what I found interesting with Garrett Paquette was he was on them wing walls, and he was doing two of the things that we love to do in rivers, guys. He was throwing a 3.3 big bite swim bait on a jig head. Now, come on. That's our jam. And then he was cranking a Spro Little John MD. I mean, how you got a rock wing dam with current.
Yeah.
And you're going to fish 100 of them.
Yeah.
You're going to throw a swim bait on a ball head, and you're going to throw a Little John MD or maybe a Little John. Right?
Yeah.
You know, flat sides, guys, aren't just for the cold water. And there's different degrees of flat sides. So a flat side is a year-round bait. And the misconception is put your flat sides away when the water warms up. I hope you do. Because I don't. I'm still throwing my Fritz side. I'm still throwing my Little John. But now I'm switching to shad colors. This time of year, we switch to shad colors. You know why that is, Mike?
Because there's shad.
Because we're eating shad.
Yep.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Cellmate, one of the best shad colors ever made. Pearl shad. Okay, great color. But, you know, we have different depths we have to hit. So the thing about cranking in September is you're primarily shallower. I mean, we're very, very shallow from the wake point state of mind to, and I know this is going to seem like a Spro commercial, but they have some very unique crankbaits. The Baby Fat John. I can crank this in a couple feet of water, and I can bounce it pretty good at the flex, right?
Yeah,
that's the Baby Fat John, and then we have the other guy I like for that September shallow cranking. Where the hell's my crankbaits at? I lost one. The regular Fat John, which is a little bigger, runs a little deeper, little wider wobble. Okay, a little more body. You know, there's a couple advantages here at play. One is I can have a Baby Fat John tied on one rod. I can have a Little John tied on another rod.
Flat side,
I can have a Little
belly.
John MD on another rod. And as I'm working through an area, You know, I don't feel like I have to constantly cut and retie, right? And you have to experiment because there's days when the fish want different kinds of wobbles. You know, think September's already tricky enough.
Yeah.
You know, we can't just say, well, this is the crankbait I'm going to throw, right? We might need to go with traditional square bill, right? And I really like, if the water's clean, I really like natural colors, right? I like, if the water's clean, I like translucents. I like naturals. I like shad colors, right? This is a really good, like, shallow to medium square bill. You know, it's a mustad treble hooks. You know, the KVD hooks come out of the box. I really like crankbaits with the good hooks on them. It's a Bill Lewis ATV. Goes through the wood great. Goes through the rock great. So my thing is, and I know you guys follow this, have a selection of crankbaits that allow you to fish. So here's one of my favorite guys. I'm a big KVD 1.5 guy, but I like the 1.0. Okay? Early September, this time of the year when they're on small bait, I like the 1.0. Day in and day out, I'm 1.5, but when it gets a little later in the fall, that 2.5 is going to play. Plus, it depends on the fishery we're on. I happen to know that those guys on the Mississippi were around big 6-inch gizzard shad. You know, when that happens, you better size up. You better size up. So have a little spread from very shallow to a little deeper. You know, I'll go, probably the deepest I'll fish in September is like a DT8. You know, I really like the DT8, DT6, but I really like the DT8, you know, for that drop off. Shad color, big shad. Little different wobble. I guess the lesson is here is you need to expand your horizon in September. September's tricky. And cranking is an advantage.
Well, you know, the nice thing about crankbait fishing is, you know, your bait presentation, you're able to size up to the bait that you're doing, because they're making baits all different sizes, crankbaits all different sizes, and shallow divers and medium divers. George has some examples of a real shallow one with a big body, and he showed you a 2.5. They make a 4.0, I think, in that thing. Big giant body, so you can match the hatch with that. But I think the big key is you can cover a lot of water with it. You know, you can chuck and wind and just blast a lot of water and put a pattern together pretty quickly with a crankbait by covering a lot of water. And that's a big thing in the September, because the fish move so much. You can go out on a Friday and whack them on a certain bank with a certain rock, and then go out on Sunday morning. You know, you're able to go back out Sunday morning, and those fish moved 300-400 yards up or 300-400 yards down, and it gives you a opportunity to cover that water real quick, you know, and reposition yourself.
Yeah, and I thought that Mississippi River tournament was a great example of what we all should be doing, and that's covering a ton of water. And a crankbait is perfect for that, you know. And choosing a selection of crankbaits.
Well, you said something really, really important there, George, and that was the flat side isn't just a cold water bait.
Oh, it's definitely not just cold water bait.
And the other thing that you said that was really important was your body style, your wobble is can be changed quickly. So the flat side gives you a certain type of wobble. Your 1.5s, your 2.5s give you another type of wobble, you know, so your body styles give you a different wobble to it too. That's something to consider.
What do you got, Nick?
Well, you know, you're talking about moving water, and that's my language. I'm all about moving water. And one of the best ones I see up there, George, all the way to your right, man, you can move some water with a good old
lipless. Oh
yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, late September, targeting current is critical, but you don't always have that option. But they're eating bait. And I'll tell you, more times than not, we have solved a tough bite day.
Yeah.
With a lipless crankbait. And again, you can bomb this son of a gun a country mile. And I think one thing I want to point out here, Nick, this bait and all these other baits that I'm talking about, especially the shallow ones, I am not fishing on light line. I am fishing on 14, 15 line. Okay? I don't want these baits to go deep. I want that protection from rock. I'm grinding. That's what September's all about. You might fish a lake, but fish it like it was a river. Go to the back of the creek arms. Go to the back of the pockets. Focus on shade banks. Once that sun's up, focus on shade banks, southwest banks. This bad boy here lets you get out on big old flats and sling it. And there's so many good lipless baits on the market. This is one we've had phenomenal fall success with. It's a Jackal TN70 disc knocker. So it's basically a kind of a one knocker. Small bait fish profile. A lot of noise. Fish just explode on lipless crankbaits in the fall.
Heck yeah, George. And you know what? As you get a little bit later, I tend to up my line size to even 20 and go with a 3/4 ounce lipless.
By all means.
And, people don't want to do that because it looks too big. But what we learned over the last couple of years, there is no too big.
There is no too big.
No.
So we've talked about this concept a lot. And we're referring back to the Mississippi. For those of you who just joined us, we're referring back to the Mississippi Lacrosse Bass Open. And we're taking what we call lesson learned from the tournament. And we're kind of focusing on the guys fishing the main river. That's not where it was won, but there was a lot of fish caught, okay? And we're relating that to our September, which can be touchy. And we're basically saying this: you don't crank enough. We are saying that you don't crank enough. And when we say you, we're talking about you. You guys don't crank enough. We don't crank enough. He doesn't crank enough. Cameraman Nick doesn't crank enough. I don't crank enough. Mm-hmm. In September, you should be cranking a large portion of your day. It may not even be the right thing to do, but it will put you on some fish. You might say, you know what? Those last 3 fish we caught, they were all on the shallowest part of this bank we fished. The last mile of this bank we fished, they were all on the shallowest part. You know what? You're right. Maybe we should run that again, and maybe this time we'll fish a fluke, or maybe we'll wacky rig, whatever.
Put a swim bait out there.
Whatever. That crankbait is your finder. It's your water eliminator.
Well,
every once in a while,
it can be the bait.
Every once in a while. Now, I don't know about you guys.
It happens a lot.
But if it's raining,
this time of year,
if it's raining and blowing and gnarly, and you're out fishing and this front comes in and it gets nasty, I'm not thinking about going back and putting the boat on the trailer. I'm thinking about all them little savage bass down there that are taking advantage of this situation. And the first thing I'm doing in that situation, I'm going on the side the wind's hitting, and I'm going on the bank.
Yeah.
And I'm getting out of square bill. I don't care what square bill you get out. I'm getting out of square bill. I might get out the old Lucky Craft 1.5. I might get out the old KVD 1.5. I might get out the old Macbeth square bill. It doesn't matter. I'm getting that square bill out and I'm getting up there and I'm cranking. I'm going to react to the wave action will make muddy water. I'm going to change colors. Always, even though they're eating shad, always have a red option and always have a crawl option. Remember, it's the illusion. These fish's brains are smaller than the lip on that crankbait. They're not like, oh, hell no. I've been eating gizzard shad all day, and this is a red bait. No. That water got dirty. The sky color changed. We don't know what it looks like to them. Don't go down that path. But that crankbait gets you there, right? Now, let's talk about tackle. Nick, what are you shallow cranking with? What are you doing? What's your rod? Tell us about the rod. What should we look for in a rod if we're Nick, cameraman Wink?
Well, obviously, I'm throwing a St. Croix. I'm going to go Legend Glass. Probably with a 1.5. I like the 7.2. Medium heavy. If I'm throwing a lipless, I'm going to go with a 7.4. And
your heavier line on your square bill?
So the square bill, I like between 14 and 15. And my lipless, I'm going with, depends. If I'm doing a half ounce, I'm going to stay in that like 17-ish range. But if I'm going a 3/4 ounce, I do like the 20-pound fluoro. That's where I'm at.
Mike, what do you recommend as far as, maybe not your overall crankbait outfit, but shallow hand-to-hand combat, September, digging them out?
Yeah, I mean, that I do use a medium heavy, but it's a graphite medium heavy crankbait rod from St. Croix. I use those a lot. And then I like the 7.2 medium also. I like to really load that rod. Yeah, the glass. I like glass a lot for that type of fishing. And I'll vary the line a lot, from 12 to 17, depending on, the type of cover, and the area I'm fishing, where I'm fishing. But most of the time it's a 14, 15, 12, 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah. So I generally don't fish a crankbait rod per se. I do make a few exceptions for that. I do like a little bit of a stiffer crankbait rod. Like we looked at that Poison Adrena tonight, which was the medium heavy, like it's glass, but it's also graphite. And it's stiffer. It's more powerful. It almost reminds you of a fast tapered rod, but with a little more give. But it's got some serious back. But I like, if there's any grass involved, I want to rip that bait out of that grass. If it's shallow, I'm cranking fast. I'm cranking wood. I want to pull those fish away from that cover. And when I'm shallow cranking, I don't like the feel of a crankbait rod. I like something that's more aggressive. So I'm going to fish like that 7.2 medium heavy glass graphite combo, or I'm going to fish a regular fast tapered graphite rod, like you would use I use my 7-foot mediums a lot, but they're fast tapered graphite. And it's more responsive.
There's a lot of good medium heavy crankbait rods out there that are pretty stiff that you do
need that backbone.
You got to be careful.
The way I fish,
you got to be careful. George kind of schooled on some of that stuff. You got to be really careful with the fast taper rod because you can lose a lot of fish that way. If you really
I like a fast reel too.
Well, yeah, if you're not really careful, you'll lose a lot of fish. I mean, typically speaking, a medium heavy crankbait rod is a stiff rod, but you get the load on the rod. You'll get that load on the rod. You can remove that fish because the whole rod loads and the whole rod's like stiffer, but you get that load on the rod and you can land that fish. So you got to be careful. Grass fishing, I can see a real stiff rod when you're trying to rip it out of the grass and doing that kind of stuff. but if you're going to use the rod that George is talking about, because I've seen him do it already, you know, you got to be a little bit more careful when you hook the fish to make sure you keep that rod pulled, make sure you keep moving that fish in the right direction, and you don't allow that fish to turn back on you and create that slack in the line, because you're going to lose them. A lot of times you'll lose them with that rod. So be careful with that. That's why I think George is right too. I mean, and Nick said it too, medium heavy 7.2, and then on the rattle trap rod, you're 7.4, medium heavy. You can move the fish with the power of the rod in the medium heavy, but it loads.
Well, I always go by what George, and when George said this, I think it was last year, maybe the year before that, I really build my fishing around my equipment. And I learned that for me, if I do a medium glass, if I get into any type of vegetation or anything like that, I'm cooked.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
I just can't.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work in that.
When I use the medium heavy, I learned to make it work in every scenario for me. Does that mean it's perfect? No.
Yeah.
But
it's perfect for you.
And it does. But
yeah.
I do want to stress, we talked about line size. And one of the things people just don't understand is how much line size can cause your lure to ride higher or lower. You can do so much you want to do with your line size.
It's critical. I mean, you know, shallow cranking is no place for light line. 12 minimum, 15 optimum, fluorocarbon, obviously. And we didn't even get into the grass aspect of it. I mean, another thing I like to do in September is get into shallow grass and crank the edge. Now, some of these grass beds don't have much of an edge. But if there's a slight drop, a depression, a ditch, a drain, where it depends where you're from, what you call them, cranking that. Yeah, cranking grass. For those of you who are uninitiated that technique, it's fairly violent. You crank your crankbait into the grass and you rip it out. And you rip it out with a multitude of, you know, all day long. And that's a reaction that draws a strike. Your crankbait selection is really critical there. Okay? So, you know, I'll go back to like the baby Fat John, you know, which dives, you know, 2 feet. I'll go to the Hybrid Hunter, which cranks grass wonderfully. I have it in a smaller size.
Such an underrated bait.
Such an underrated bait. Now, you notice I transferred our discussion to cranking some grass now. This bad boy thrives in the vegetation. This is the John Deere riding lawnmower of the crankbaits. And it's great on hardcover, don't get me wrong, but it is freaking awesome in grass. And it hunts, it rips. It's a great crankbait. So make sure you make your right bait choices.
Well, it's important not to get a bait that digs too deep in the grass.
Yeah, you don't want something that's, you know,
you want to catch the top portion of the grass.
You want something that runs, you know, a little bit deeper than the grass, but not much.
Yeah. And
you want a rod that's got some backbone. You don't want a moderate tapered rod. No. You want a fast tapered rod, or at worst, a moderate fast tapered rod with some medium heavy power rankings, or a medium plus type thing where you can snatch that bait clean. And it's deadly freaking technique. It's a deadly technique.
Yeah, Jeff Riddle, we went over all the wake bait stuff last week in our show and how important it is this time of year. So that kind of falls in this category also, but we're just talking about the next level down, you know, that 1.5 2 foot down into that 8-10 foot range. You know, the 8 to 10 being the lips of the channels, the lips of the ditch, the lips of a drop off or a ledge or
edge
whatever.
Edge of a flat.
You know, that's where we're kind of talking about right now. So yeah, I mean, we throw a wake bait this time of year a ton. So we went over that big time last week, and how important it is. So you can kind of take that show and now we're moving into this type of stuff, and we're talking rock, we're talking wood, we're talking ledges, we're talking grass now, where you got grass edges, you got grass with clumps out in front of it, you're ripping down into it, you're ripping the bait out of it. And what George is saying now is that a rod choice and line choice and depth of bait is really critical, because you want to come down into the grass, but you don't want to go deep in the grass. You want to catch the top part of the grass. You want to rip it out of there to create that strike, to make that fish strike. But at the same time, with a stiffer rod, you can clean the grass off of it. If you have a rod that bends real hard and you try to rip it out, it doesn't clean the grass. Stiff rod, you can pop it twice, clean it off, and that is a triggering device for those fish to kind of jump on it.
And that's the best demonstration you just showed there, because I just wanted to make sure anybody that was listening to the rods I picked out, that was not for, I will fish those rods in the grass unless my bait keeps coming back with grass on it and I just don't have the power to rip it out,
clean it. Yeah.
Then I will go to more of a graphite rod.
Yeah.
With that more backbone, because I'm not going to go every cast and have to clean my bait off.
I mean, how many times have we fished rattle traps in grass, and how awesome that is?
Phenomenal.
And, so many guys are like, man, I can't fish this thing. Well, that's because your rod is too soft. You don't have a rod to clean it. And then we can, I think grass fishing is the biggest key is to, yes, you want to snag the grass. Yes, you want to flick off of that, because that's your strike indicator. But when it flicks off, you want to clean pretty quickly, so it really gives you that nice flutter and then starts back up again. Nice, Well,
that's a big deal what you're talking about, because I can't tell you how many people are on my boat already that are throwing crankbaits in grass and they don't have the right rod to clean it.
Yeah.
They will literally put it away. They're done.
Yeah.
You got the wrong setup.
Yeah.
And your arms are tired.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
You
can't have that.
It's very, very frustrating fishing a crankbait in grass. And that's why it's really critical. And that's why George was saying, the graphite, you don't want that moderate. You don't want that soft. When I said I fish a glass medium, 7.2 medium moderate, it's one of my favorite crankbait rods. That's rock.
Wood.
Wood. I like a softer rod because I like the load in that stuff. You know what I mean? I like the load. I want to look at that fish in the boat. I want the rod to load, and I, let the whole rod do the work for me, and I'm not losing fish. But it has nothing to do with grass fishing. That's a totally different monster.
I will throw one curveball that you can do if you don't have an option for a heavier rod, or, you can go to braid. That will give you that little bit extra.
I did it
behind it.
He did it for years.
I did it for years.
Yep.
I fished a glass rod with 30-pound braid for years.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good.
For that reason was we were losing a lot of fish.
It wasn't the best, but it was pretty good.
We were losing a lot of fish back in those days.
Well, we didn't have the right line.
We didn't have line. We didn't have.
They didn't invent it yet.
We didn't even have hooks. Yeah, it was bad.
You guys always crack me up. There's one story you guys crack me up with always, is those damn water chestnuts where you guys were like swinging as hard as you can.
We didn't have anything, man.
Yeah, it's
like water chestnuts are evil. They're evil.
When braid came out, we used braid on everything, and then we kind of got into the copolymers, and the fluorocarbons came, and then it was like eliminated all the need for braid. But
I will tell you, as we discussed this September problem, not all days are challenging. September can be phenomenal, especially if you get some weather.
Great days in September.
Keep in mind, when we're talking about this cranking, we're not talking about the 100% solution of the day, right? We're talking about either covering a tremendous amount of water and plucking off a few active fish, which is a good thing, right? Or finding an area that we get multiple bites in, right? And reworking it. So it's a multi-type deal. Now, a lot of times, if your personal philosophy is winding finding active fish and winding on them, you know, you're going to cover like a lot of water. You know, I'm reminded of many September tournaments on the Potomac River, which is a tough deal. And I'm reminded of a couple of those tournaments that I solved my problem with a crankbait. You know, I struggled mightily during practice in these events. And I finally said, you know what? I need something where I can put my trolling motor on freaking high and fish that I'm going to fish a mile of this grass bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to burn my batteries up and burn my trolling motor up. And I'm so pissed off right now. And I would pick that crankbait up and I would tie on another crankbait and I'd get another crankbait rod out. And I just kept making changes. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. What happened was I hit that little stretch. You know, we talk about these massive grass beds. We refer back to this Mississippi River, these massive backwater grass beds. All the fish are in multiple small spots. So, you know, are you going to find those fish flipping? Probably not, unless you land on them. Are you going to find them frogging? A little better than if you're flipping. But let me tell you something. If you're willing to crank and burn battery and dedicate yourself to it and go for it and not back down after 30 minutes, you know, you can get pretty gung-ho with any type of style of fishing for a good 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, they're not eating this today. This ain't working, you know?
Well, we were talking, I think it was last week, you know, about, I told a story about some of my guy trips into September and how I would fill my tank up and you know, click, 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 pull the thing out, click, 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 all the way up until there was no air left anywhere in my tank, because I knew that I was going to cover a lot of water. And by the end of the day, 8 hours later, when I get back to the boat ramp and I'm cleaning my boat up and I lift my hatch up to look down the gas tank, there's a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch of gas in the bottom of my gas tank. That's what happens when you're looking for fish in September that are biting aggressively. You know, you can pick off a fish here and there, but, you know, to find that hot school, you got to cover a lot of water, and you can salvage a great day by covering that water. So a lot of cranking goes on that time. And there's some other stuff that we do, but the crankbait plays a big role, as much of a role this time of year as it does in end of February, March, April, you know, in that cold water when they're moving up shallow and everybody's throwing a crankbait. It's almost as important now as it is then in your presentation. So covering a lot of water with a crankbait's a big deal. George said it best. I don't do it enough. He doesn't do it.
I wasn't talking about myself.
He doesn't do it enough. And you guys that are listening and watching tonight,
I meant you, really.
You're not doing it enough. You're just not doing it enough.
You know, the other thing is in September, and the crankbait is an awesome tool for this. Get your box of crankbait outs or your multiple boxes of crankbaits out when you go fishing this weekend. Rig up a couple rods, a couple baits. But here's the deal. Don't ever be satisfied with what you're catching or not catching. Right? If you're not catching fish, the last thing it means is that the bite's bad. It just means what you're doing is not good. So by being never satisfied, you know, if you look at something and you think, oh man, I should fish that flat with a crankbait, do it. Pull the trolling motor up, drive over to that flat, put the trolling motor down, and give it 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah. And
fish the hell out of that flat with a crankbait.
That's called fishing your gut.
And just never be satisfied. What happens in September, before these fish are now pretty much in a large portion of the country, what happens is this. You get that cold front, which we had a couple weeks ago. That switch got flipped. Those fish, even though it warmed back up, I mean, it's been 80, 90 degrees here for the last week and a half. Even though that warmed back up, that mental switch on those fish does not get flicked off. They are now forming up their wolf packs, and they are hunting. And if you don't believe that, you keep covering water and keep throwing these crankbaits, and one of these times you're going to hook a good fish, and he's going to have 3 or 4 with him. Bingo. You found it, and that's what this behavior is. Guess what?
Love it.
Drop the power poles, hit the spot lock, do whatever you got to do.
Dig them out.
And then revert back to our show on the progression of firing up a school and keeping them going. Work that area. Then go find it again. But what we're doing is, guys and gals, is we're finding them with crankbaits. We got all kinds of crankbaits that we're using. We got chick magnets. We got
crankbait for you.
We got we are
for
cranking.
You, Nick, you get a crankbait. George gets a crankbait.
It's
Mike
working.
Gets a crankbait. Nick
It's
gets
working.
a crankbait.
It's working.
Well, you say that, guys, but if I got 2 people in the boat, you're not throwing the same crankbait I'm throwing.
All right, I got to break into this show here. Sorry, Nick. I'm going to bust into this show.
Oh, my God.
I'm busting into it, Nick. Crappy Kev, you're banned from the show. You're full of shit. The Jets are winning 7-0.
Oh, my God.
The Jets are winning 7-0. They just scored. I don't know what the hell your TV you're watching, but my TV says it's 7-0 Jets. Crappy Kev, you're barred. You were just trying to fire me up. You were trying to get me wild. You were trying to get me on the edge. You were trying to get me over the top.
It worked, George.
Yeah.
I kept it cool the whole way until they scored. I just scored right now. You know.
Guess what?
Crappy Kev.
If you keep going, you're going to end up sounding like Mike Greenberg.
Crappy Kev. You're on the list.
Then you'll understand why
You're
Golick
on
quit.
the list. We are 7-0 Jets.
Jets.
It won't last. Doesn't matter. He was already 14-0 like a half an hour ago. He was trying to fire me up. He was tickling me. He was trying to get me going, you know.
Seems like it worked.
Yeah. I was calm the whole way.
It's a fun time.
Not anymore.
All right.
All right, boys. What do we got? What do we got? We're going to
what I was
Nick,
saying
yeah,
there
what you're
was,
saying, Nick. Sorry, Nick.
If
Sorry.
I'm throwing a crankbait in front of the boat and you want to throw a crankbait in the back, you're not throwing the same crankbait I am, because there's so many different options. We got to find which one's working.
Yeah.
So when you were handing them out to everybody, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Try something different.
And if you're in my boat, you better like fish in shallow water.
Yeah.
Because I'm one step away from a bridge troll when it comes to that stuff. I mean, I'm going shallow because I know my odds in September are better covering shallow water.
He's going through trolling motor blades.
I tell you, I've been catching all my fish for the last 3 weeks in the shallowest water I can fish.
I gotta tell you, our river out here, man, is running backwards. It's so damn low, it's running backwards, and it's getting hairy out there. I hate it when it's like this. It's no fun. You're beating your equipment up. You know, it's a problem.
Speak for yourself. I've been having a ball,
bro. I'm not even going there.
I've been having a ball.
I'm not even going there.
It has been shallow though.
Yeah,
but it's been fun.
I mean, it's you know, and you got to realize he was a passenger for all those trips out. I mean, it's when you were out there trying to run around, man, it's freaking bad.
Is there a kayak tournament coming up?
There was one this past weekend. Those guys, Mike Reinhold, who's started working with us a few weeks ago. He fished that kayak tournament last weekend, and first thing I asked him when he came out, "Oh, Mike, how was the tournament?" Oh, he said, "Oh, it was fun. It was a great time." He said, "But I'm getting too old for this shit." He said, "I never spent so much time dragging a kayak."
No way.
He said, "I drug a kayak all day long," and that's what a lot of these guys were doing, or dragging their kayaks around. I'm telling you, it's low. It's low. It's ugly.
Reminds me of last year when Greg had to drag his all the way back.
It's ugly. Well, yeah, it's ugly out there. I mean, we got to be super careful. But when George says we're fishing shallow, we're fishing shallow. But yeah, that's what you do this time of year. No doubt about it. All right. Nick, thanks for coming back.
Well, heck yeah.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming back, buddy.
Hey, everybody listening. If they're not busting on me, that means they don't like me.
That's exactly right, Nick. You learned that a long time ago.
Exactly.
You did. You definitely learned that a long time ago. If we ain't picking on you, that means we probably don't know about you and we probably don't like you. One or the other. But if we're picking on you, we like you a lot. And we certainly like Nick. And we certainly like you guys for stopping in and hanging out with us, talking fishing, talking tackle, because that's what we love to do. And we will catch you on the next Tackle Shop Live.
I met you on a sunny day. Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I get down knowing how you're blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you.